I want to welcome you today to Williams Island TV. I'm Bob Shelley, president of the island, and today we have quite an eclectic group of people. We look forward to seeing you today. Enjoy the show. I think you're going to have a wonderful time with the people we have on. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. And welcome to Williams Island TV. I do want to preface before we start today, we're having a wonderful afternoon talking with Rabbi Guido Cohn, Rabbi of Aventura Turnberry Jewish Center. The island, we have always made a practice. We don't say or take sides, whether it's political, religious, or any opinions. But I thought with what's going on in the world today between the anti-Semitism, the hatred, Iran, Israel, United States involvement in hopefully peace talks, the Gaza situation, I thought what better person we could talk to about what's going on in the world today but Rabbi Guido Cohn, who's been there. He's been there from October 7th when the horrible massacre took place. He's been there numerous times, but he's also very well versed on, I guess, the socialization of what's going on there, what the possibilities of peace could be, how it's affecting the livelihood of the residents of Israel, the people of Israel, and where we go next with all of this. So I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi Guido Cohn.
Thank you, Bob, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Honored to be here.
It's truly my pleasure. We go back a lot of years together. And I remember when you first came to the Aventura, you were, in fact, you're very involved with the city. You're sort of like the chaplain of the...
Chaplain of the city of Aventura. Yeah. I try to be involved to the extent that I can.
When we first talked about coming on, it was originally before this Iran issue took place. And I had heard a sermon you had made, and it was beautiful because it was so apropos, not so much about anti-Semitism, more about the hatred that's going on, the bigotry that's going on throughout the whole world. And it's almost like open season on someone who doesn't agree with somebody else. And of course, we look at it from the anti-Semitic side, but living in Aventura, we almost live in a bubble a little bit, but it's not the real world. But you've been there, so maybe if you could give us your thoughts, going back to what started October 7th to where we are now, and then we'll get into the Iran issue. How do you, as clergy, deal with the feelings people have with what's going on now?
So, I mean, let's start from that tragic day. I remember vividly that October 7th, Saturday morning, Shmini Atzeret, the day before Simchat Torah, right at the end of the holiday season for the Jewish people. I was walking to shul as I do every Shabbat with my daughter, who was then 11 years old. And we arrive at the synagogue and the security guard tells me like, Rabbi, did you see what's going on? And I'm like, no, it's Shabbat. My cell phone is off. I don't check social media. I don't check the internet. And he's like, Rabbi, you need to turn on your phone. It's like, what you're talking about? I mean, you're the guard, I'm the rabbi. And he's like, Rabbi, it's bad. So I went to my office, turned on the computer, and saw what was happening in Israel. Back then, only a few hours into the attack, we didn't know the extent of the attack. But as the events started to develop, we started knowing more and more. I think that day changed our lives as Jews, as people who live in the free world, as good people, because until then, I think there was a lot of thinking in terms of grace. And, well, you are not on this side, but you are on the other side. I think October 7th called human beings to choose sides. Either you are with terrorism or we are with the civilized world. Either you are with darkness or you're with light. You're with death or we're with life. And for me, that was a wake-up call as a rabbi, as a human being, as a Jew. And ever since then, I think what happens in Israel became an important part of our day-to-day life. I wake up every morning and I check what's going on there, where the threats. Thank God we've been already 1 week without any serious attacks against Israel. And yet we don't know whether this ceasefire is fragile and it's going to last a few days, a few weeks, or maybe we bought tranquility for the next 10 years. Could well be. My first trip to Israel, 25 days after October 7th, I actually was there for the commemoration of the 30th day, which is in the Jewish tradition, we mark the Shloshim, the 30th day after someone's passing. And then I've been back to Israel twice. After that first trip, I went there in January 2024, and I went back again in December 2024, January 2025. So I do want to comment on something that you said before, Bob, that Aventura is a bubble, but it's not the real world. I have a different perspective on that. I think Aventura is a good example of what the world could be.
Could be. I love it. Love that. Yes.
Let's not see it as an isolated bubble that is not the real world. The problem is not Aventura. The problem is the real world. And maybe we need to inspire the world to live in the way in which we live here in Aventura, in which we do have disagreements. They're here people of different backgrounds, different religions, different political ideas, from the whole spectrum. But what we don't have is the enmity that people developed in the past couple of years towards someone who looks or thinks differently. There was a time, I'm sure you remember it, you're a few years older than I, there was a time in which you could have friends that have different opinions than yours.
Yes.
And they were not your enemies. They were just people who think differently. Now I see it everywhere, like people are only surrounding themselves with the ones who think like them. Social media plays a key role in that thing, because the way the algorithm works, you only see the posts of the things that you are going to like. I think we need to go back to the good old times in which you could have dinner with someone who thinks differently, who prays differently, who looks differently, and just enjoy it. Be friends with different people. Otherwise,
and you're so true what you're saying. It's very interesting because unfortunately, and it's not just October 7th, because it could be political, it could be October 7th, it could be so many things. Everyone's become polarized. It's no longer a gray area of the world. It's black or white. We have friends that we were thrown out of a restaurant, literally asked to leave because he didn't believe in something I believed in, but he got so upset and so loud and so boisterous in his opinion that they actually had to ask us to leave the restaurant. And that's sad because there's no longer dialogue with different set of opinions. And I think that has caused so much of what's going on. But to go back to October 7th, I believe that October 7th, yes, it happened in Israel, but it could happen anywhere. And it is happening around the world. That's the sad part. But people don't understand. We live in such a volatile time, don't we?
So the attack of October 7th was an attack not only against Israel, but also against everything that Israel represents.
Yes.
And Israel is democracy. Israel is equal opportunity for men and women. Israel is a country that is respectful of sexual diversity. The only place in the Middle East in which LGBTQ people can live freely and have a family and dress wherever they want, demonstrate any way they want. Israel is freedom of religion. Israel represents all that. This is not about the occupation and the right for the Palestinian people to have a state and the many tensions that have erupted in the Middle East in the past couple of decades. This is about a well-planned project funded by Iran through its proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, to attack first Israel and then the rest of the free world. If Israel falls, we come next. So I think it's very important because when I see in college campuses and in other places here in America, people confuse their support for the right of the Palestinian people with their support with terrorism, and they just don't see the difference. They don't understand that walking in the streets of New York with a t-shirt that says Free Palestine is not to say something about the freedom of the Palestinian people, is to use a trope that was used to shoot and kill two Jews in the streets of Washington, D.C. So Free Palestine became a slogan for something else. It's like, it's not that the people who say Free Palestine are promoting the freedom of the Palestinian people. Palestinian people need to be freed from Hamas, which is oppressing them, and there's no freedom there. And so I think part of the problem is that there's so much ignorance that the world confused a liberation movement, which Hamas is not. And
Well, I think, unfortunately, the word Israel is synonymous with Jews. So it creates where all the good that a country like called Israel does technology-wise. I read a book, Startup Nation, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. The technology, people don't realize that probably 75% of the things you do in a hospital started in Israel. But it's not because it was started by Jews. It was started in a country of technicians that happened to be Jewish. But as horrible as this sounds, I think in some ways the best thing that happened was the Iranian involvement and the bombing of Iran and U.S. involvement, because I think it brought to light where these are not, it's not all the Muslim people, it's not all of the Palestinians or all of the Iranians, it's the governments. But what has happened is with this happening, people realize it's not just against Israel. Yesterday there was a fatwa issued against Trump.
yeah,
I mean, it's against the free world. Iran is not just going after Israel. It's going against Americans, free people, everybody.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, as horrible as what happened is with Iran, I think it's brought to light a little bit more of, and that's why I want to talk to you, because it's no longer isolated in the Middle East. This is a world issue. And that's why the European nations have increased their spending and they're building up their arsenal, so to speak, because they realize they're next. It's not just there. And I wanted your thoughts because it's just how I feel. But where does this go there? I mean, obviously there's peace right now.
Look, I think there were many people that underestimated Iran. Iran is not Hamas. Iran is not Hezbollah. It's not Yemen. Iran is a world power when it comes to its ability to harm and to inflict damage in countries like Israel, but also in the U.S. and in U.S. allies and interests and bases in the Middle East. Iran is very dangerous. And if it wasn't because of the courageous decision of our president to attack the nuclear facilities in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan last week, we would be looking at least 6,000 casualties in Israel. I mean, Israel was getting ready for between 5,000 and 7,000 people dead once they exhaust the David Sling, the defense system that was intercepting the missiles and the drones from Iran. And so that's Iran. Now, I think it remains to be seen whether this 12-day war, as President Trump called it, which we can talk about that name and why I disagree with that, but this 12-day war marked the beginning of a new era in the Middle East. It could well be. And, Iran understands that there's no room for doing what they try to do with Israel. Syria seems to be engaging in conversations with Israel to normalize their diplomatic relationships and sign some kind of a peace agreement that will involve the withdrawal of Israeli forces from southern Syria, but also the recognizing of Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And if we can sign something with Syria, we already have peace with Jordan, we already have peace with Egypt. We have agreements, I don't want to call them peace agreements because there was no war, but we have agreements with countries like Oman, Morocco, the Emirates, and all that. We just need Saudi Arabia, and then Iran will be isolated in its
pretty
own
much
region.
isolated now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, Saudi Arabia has still, has yet not signed something official with Israel. I think when the moment happens, Iran will be isolated. There's another potential threat in the area, which is Turkey. Turkey has the largest air force of NATO after the US, and it's a very powerful military power. So that's also remains to be seen what role Erdogan will play in this war. But I believe that the strategy that was developed by President Trump in his first presidency of having Israel sign treaties and agreements with small countries in the area without signing something with the Palestinian, which was, the traditional way of reading the Middle East conflict is Israel will not have peace with its neighbors until they solve the problem with the Palestinian. And President Trump's, theory seems to be Israel will only agree with something with the Palestinian after it agrees with something with the rest of the world. So I think it's an interesting twist, and we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm optimistic. I think Iran believed that they would inflict much more damage in Israel than what they actually inflicted. I do want to say something about this 12-day war. I mean, we have to remember that Israel has been at war for more than 600 days.
Exactly.
The war started on October 7th, and it was a war that was triggered by Iran because Hamas was trained by Iran, was funded by Iran, and was provided even with weapons and many other things by Iran. And the war is not over because there are still hostages in Gaza. The war will only be over when the hostages return home.
Well, and I want to bring up something else that you touched on. When the U.S. bombed Iran, it became a political football as to how deep the bomb went, how much damage was it 6 months, 2 months, 2 years. I don't think it makes a difference. This is me. I don't think it makes a bit of difference how much time has been delayed on the Iranian side of uranium or the bomb. I think what really was stated, the statement was made, the U.S. will bomb you, whether the bomb goes 200 feet, 100 feet, or 10 feet. And I think the deterrent is not so much whether it was knocked out completely or not, but the fact is, you keep playing around here and you keep going on doing what you're doing, it's not the end. There'll be more to come. And I think that's the statement that's really coming out of it, that the U.S. did do something.
Yeah, in terms of deterrence, it is clear. I mean,
Right.
The U.S. showed the world that if you attack Israel, you're attacking
Correct.
an American ally, and you will get your punishment. But still, we need to make sure that Iran doesn't reach uranium enrichment to the level that they can produce an atomic bomb. Because if that happens, remember that as opposed to what happens here, and again, I mean, leave any political thoughts and whatever aside, and with all the criticism that some people can have about many things that happen in this country, we still live in a normal country, okay? There's a democracy, there are checks and balances, there's a Supreme Court. The people who can push the button and drop a nuclear bomb from Iran are not normal. That's not a normal country. That's pure evil. That's a theocracy.
No question.
There's no, there's no checks and balances there. There's no Supreme Court. There's no accountability. There's no democracy. So if Iran reaches the uranium enrichment to a level that they can produce an atomic bomb, we're in trouble. Even with all the deterrence, we are in trouble, and bombing that will cause a nuclear disaster. So
no question.
We need to make sure it doesn't happen. I want to believe that the operation was successful and that at least their nuclear efforts were delayed significantly, and that buys the free world the time to try to trigger and inspire a change of regime, which is what Iran actually needs. I mean, it was actually around the time that I was born when Iran changed from the previous regime of the Shah that was far from perfect, but to this theocracy that is way worse than that.
See, I find that the stupidity of people, and it's the world we live in, of every country, instead of minimizing the damage we did, because if you keep minimizing and saying nothing was done, eventually something more is going to have to get done to stop it. You would think they'd say whatever. But I do believe if Iran has that capability in a few more months to do it, we're not done there then. I don't believe that this country will allow them, because giving Iran a nuclear weapon has nothing to do with only Israel. Now we're talking about war.
So let me tell you two things that I think about this. First of all, I think this is one of the moments in history that require that we think in terms of values and actions and not in terms of political parties and people. It's not about being pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It's not about being Republican or Democrat. It's not about being, a Zionist or not being a Zionist. This is about the very concrete fact. There was a country that is unpredictable, that is governed by evil people, that they say it out loud, death to America.
Of course.
I mean, so these are people who want to see us dead.
No question.
And we have someone who had the courage to bomb them. I think if we are intellectually honest and if we are on the side of good, we need to recognize that that was a very positive move, regardless of whether we like President Trump or not. And I think people lost that ability. People first think, I'm against Trump. So whatever comes from Trump, I'm going to say I oppose it. And I think, even how has the saying, even a broken clock can
It's
tell
like
you,
twice a day, right.
Twice a day can give you the right time.
Correct.
So this is like, even if you are against Trump, even if you believe that some things when it comes to domestic policy, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to tariffs, you name it. Even if you oppose all of that, you need to have the integrity to say that it was in the best interest of the free world to bomb these 3 nuclear facilities in Iran before it was too late. I'm a parent of 3 teenagers. I see how they get their information and their news. I mean, it's all about TikTok.
But it's kind
It's
of
all about
frightening.
Instagram.
It's kind of frightening when you think about it.
So we need to start doubling down in education, and that's something, as much as we love the place where we live and we acknowledge that Florida and Miami in particular is a great place in many, many aspects, still way behind when it comes to education and the country as a whole. I mean, people don't learn history. I mean, how are you going to expect people to understand the danger of the Iranian threat if they are not well versed in world history, both ancient history and modern history? I mean, you need to understand who Iran is and why, the Persian Empire became suddenly a Muslim fanatic regime. You need to understand what happened to the Jews in the 20th century to understand why we get so triggered when we see a threat of this magnitude. So I think education is the key to disentangling this situation and solving the problem. And sadly, I don't see huge improvements in that field. We need to, we need to have better teachers. We need to have value-focused education. We need to have parents who have the energy, the bandwidth, and the time to be partners in their children's education. It's a domino effect. I mean, when you have a parent who arrives home at 8:30 p.m. and exhausted because he had to work overtime because otherwise there's no way to provide for his family, how is he going to engage in meaningful conversation with his children to make sure that whatever they saw on TikTok is not taking, as the truth?
But that social media, to me, has been the worst enemy of our young today, because they don't read a newspaper. They don't, and I'm not even sure what paper you could read, but they get all their news from social media today.
Yeah.
And it's so fast before it's verified, before it's factual, but it doesn't matter. They believe what they see in this 20-second clip.
And the adults as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's only the kids.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not anymore.
But at least the adults have they have reserves back there because they did receive a different kind of education. So they still know a little bit more when it comes to history, when it comes to politics. But I believe education is key to solving this problem. And as long as we continue to lower budgets when it comes to education and to disregard some things,
Well,
it's
if
not
you
gonna be
can't teach history, you don't learn from it.
I know, but if you cannot find teachers, then you're not going to be able to teach history. And when you, I mean, just take a tour of schools in the area and see who, you know, I mean, there's everything. There's a little bit of everything. I don't want anyone who is a teacher to say, oh, the rabbi was offensive. There are very good teachers in local schools, but also there are many subs that are filling in because the schools cannot find the right teachers, and we have people who are not prepared to teach. We have a model, an educational system that is outsourcing on online programs and books and other things, because the idea of a teacher that actually knows their subject and stands in front of a class and teaches is more and more difficult to find. Again, I'm not blaming the educators. There's a problem with the system that cannot find the right educator.
But you're a teacher.
I am a teacher, but I'm also part of the leadership of a school.
Correct.
And I know how hard it is.
That's exactly, that's what
to
I'm saying.
convince someone to go into education when they can do something more profitable, working from home or doing other things. It's, I once met a guy who was driving an Amazon truck, and I don't know, it was a very hot day. I offered him water. We engaged in conversation, and he told me that before driving this Amazon truck, he used to drive a school bus. And I say, like, so why did you switch from driving a school bus to, and he says, because the packages don't make noise or trouble. And I think the same happened to people who could be teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, they choose,
You don't make noise.
they choose to make more money, to live in a more relaxed way. Being a teacher is one of the most difficult jobs on earth.
If you look at it, you have an athlete that doesn't need an education that makes $50 million a year, and you have a teacher that has doctorates and makes $50,000 a year.
Correct. We have to change that.
Something's wrong with that.
Change that
Yeah, there's
so
something
that
wrong with that.
smart people can choose to make a career in education.
Yeah.
And that will be the beginning of solving this problem that you are describing.
So, from the time you graduated and you became a rabbi
Yeah.
till today,
Many years ago.
a couple of days ago, has much changed?
Yes. I have to tell you, Bob, I never thought when I was ordained 18 years ago that I was going to spend years preaching about anti-Semitism. I thought it was a thing of the past. Even if I lived through the bombing attacks in Argentina and all that, but it was like isolated events that one could clearly identify the reasons and all that. But this thing that we're seeing, I never thought that I was going to be, and
See, that's
even more when I moved to America. When I moved to America, I never thought that I would have to go back to those folders and notes from rabbinical school so that I can preach about the history of anti-Semitism. And yet we saw Pittsburgh and Poway and Colleyville and Jersey City, and so many attacks that took place in the past couple of years. And now what we're seeing these days, this killing of these two young people in Washington, D.C., the other attacking in L.A., the demonstrations. Yeah, the world has changed. When I was ordained, I thought I was going to spend my life preaching about Shabbat, fixing the world, Tikkun Olam, helping the poor, and all that.
You'd ever get in a sermon and say it's open season on the Jews?
I never thought I was going to live in a time in which I have to preach about that, in which we have to increase security. I mean, I say this often from the pulpit. When I moved, before being a rabbi here in Aventura, I was a rabbi in Bogota, Colombia. And I was, every Shabbat, as I walked back from the synagogue to my house, I was escorted by an armed bodyguard. And when we moved to the US, the first Shabbat that we walked back home, my son, who back then he was 7 years old, he said, like, Dad, where's the bodyguard? And I said, no, we moved to a country where we don't need bodyguards anymore. That was my response to my son. Fast forward 8 years, a couple of Shabbatot ago, it was the advice of our security director at the synagogue that I be escorted for a couple of weeks because there were some threats.
Horrible,
So yes, the world has changed and not for good. Sadly.
Anyway, I really thank you for being here, but on a positive note, we have to leave on a good note.
Okay.
I believe there is hope. I think change is so beneficial, and I really believe that the majority of the people, I believe people are good, basically. They're small-minded sometimes, people are opinionated, but I really believe some of what's going on is so powerful to the mind right now of the dangers that we're all facing. You know, when you talk the word nuclear, it becomes world affecting. It's not just a city any longer. And I think maybe that's the best thing that has happened, that the fear of nuclear threat has brought the world a little bit closer together and made us realize that we better do something about this. And it's not only the Jewish world, it's the world. You drop a bomb, it's not discriminate as to who goes. So I really do believe in some respects what's happening today may, in its own way, have some kind of a positive effect. Because like you said, if you educate the people to the reality of the dangers, then maybe there's a solution and maybe there's a change of thought process. If you don't educate them, then they're going to stick with their old ways of thinking.
I agree with you. And again, to end in a positive note, I think it's important to highlight how many people were the right side of history in the past couple of years. I mean, yes, we've seen lots of threats and anti-Semitism and all that, but I must highlight also how much support we saw from some politicians, from people in the media, people who had the courage, people who are not Jewish or not, connected to Israel, and had the courage to speak the truth from whatever places they were. The amount of Christian, mainly evangelical leaders, for example, who reached out to us, who offered to help, who made the expressions of solidarity. And we at the Synod, we received a donation of 1,400 Israeli flags so that we can parade on Yom Kippur with a donation of a local evangelical church. And that gives me hope. It gives me hope to see that there are many people who understand that this is not about politics. This is not a partisan issue. This is about life and death. This is about light and darkness. And in that sense, I am optimistic. And again, to end on a positive note, I do want to highlight the fact that I believe that the bubble in which we live in can also be a light unto the nations. If there can be places like Aventura, that means we can live together in a different way, in spite of our disagreements and our differences. We just need to replicate the model. Maybe there is a way for us as citizens and residents of the city of Aventura to show other areas and other countries and other cities and other nations that there is a way to live together in peace and harmony in spite of our differences.
Rabbi, I can't
thank you so much.
No, I can't thank you, and you have a tough job ahead of you. I know that. Thank you, Rabbi. As always.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Every week we try to introduce you to one of our neighbors and talk a little about what they do and what they've accomplished on the island, and also why they're here and what they think about our island and why they moved here. So today we have Cecilia, who also has a home care company. And welcome.
Thank you.
So
thank you for having me.
First, before we talk about what you do, tell us why you chose Williams Island and what was it about us?
Well, I was living in 2019, I was living in Brickell, and that was amazing. When I met my husband, he said, why don't you move to Aventura? And I said, okay, I'll move. We were planning to start a family. And I said, okay, Brickell is not an option for me anymore. So we moved to Aventura. We were renting a place, and we decided it was time to buy. 2020 came, and we kind of stopped those plans. And we restarted those plans in 2021, and we started looking. And when I came to Williams Island for the first time, I was like, I don't know what we're going to do, but I have to live here. And I don't want to live anywhere else. So we started looking in every building, every apartment that was selling, and we decided to live here. And I don't regret any of my decisions. I want to stay here.
Which building do you live in?
2000.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I love it. Now we have a 3-year-old son, and we wouldn't change it for.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, we have a new committee on the island now that's just specifically for young families.
Oh,
And you should definitely get involved with it because
Absolutely.
you have a child, and that's what we're trying to get to. The demographics have changed on the island, where we have 400 or 500 children now.
yeah. But I do like the combination of younger age and also older. Like, I come from a family that it's been always involved with all ages. So I do like that about the island. I wouldn't change that. So it's changing, but I love that combination anyway.
And you tell me a little about your home care now.
I was working corporate 2 years ago, and one day I told my husband, like, I need something different that drives me and actually motivates me a little bit more than just corporate. And we started looking, and we decided to go to the home care route. And we acquired a franchise, Hallmark Home Care.
Oh.
It's a little bit different than an agency. We have a registry for over 100 caregivers. I'm actually helping families. I'm actually changing something for a family and not just sitting in an office looking at numbers.
So when somebody wants to when somebody needs home care, usually is it the doctors that refer to companies to call, or how do you get to the people? How do they find you?
people think that they need like a doctor's referral for that, but honestly, you can look for a caregiver anytime at any point. You don't have to have any doctor's
And what about
direction.
the insurance coverage?
It depends on our company in particular only takes long-term insurance, not Medicare, not Medicaid, but you can look for a caregiver no matter what. If you want to use your insurance, you need a doctor's
That's what I thought, okay.
yeah, but you can look for a caregiver for a preventive situation. If you look like any of your family needs like a preventive person there, some hours to prevent a fall or to prevent
So
something.
the long term would be, let's say people have a long-term policy that usually says covers for 3 years. That's the kind of thing that you would be dealing with.
Yes,
that kind
you
of
call your
policy.
insurance, you activate that part of the policy if you have it. It has to be home care, care at home. And once you activate that, we provide all the documentation needed for you to get reimbursed for that.
So one
part
of the things I find is that maybe you could explain this as long as you're here now. There's always that period of time where long-term doesn't kick in for, was it 90 days or 60 days, whatever that
Usually
time is.
30 days.
30
yeah.
days. So during that 30-day period, what does somebody do? Pay out of pocket?
Yes,
So that's theirs, and then after that, yours kicks
you
in.
get reimbursed.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Because I know some of them are longer than 30 days.
Some of them, the oldest ones,
Yeah.
the newest are getting like 30 days or like it's getting shortened. Unfortunately, from what I've seen from those long-term insurance, the amount they give you per day, you'll have to pay out of pocket anyway. Some
Yeah.
portion of it.
What is the average cost on a daily? Because I think they give between $360 and $400 or something a day. Is that what the policy is?
We charge more for the hour because sometimes you don't need a caregiver for the 24/7. If you need a caregiver for 24/7, it's not sustainable. Like it could get really expensive. But if you need the caregiver for a couple of hours, it could be around $26, $28 per hour.
Okay.
Yeah,
it
so-
it could last a long time.
It can last a long time. And when you think about spending on that, you should think about you're investing on preventing hospital readmission or a fall or something that can go wrong with your family member just by not doing it or trying to save that money. And that's what families sometimes don't see. And they try to care for their family member and they burn out.
Gotcha.
Instead of being with your spouse or your parent, you're caregiving for them. And it's a totally different story. And they call us desperate, saying, I can't do this anymore.
So you've started this 2 years ago. Do you find it's busy?
It is busy. There's a lot of home care companies. Ours tries to be more boutique and specialized in not only matching you with a caregiver that has the experience or the skills, but also that matches your personality or your preference. Because you're going to be with that person for a couple or a lot of hours.
Yes.
So you don't want someone that doesn't match your vibe. And we try to look for that too. We go to the place where the patient is, and we try to, if it's possible, sometimes it is not, we try to interview the patient.
And what kind of background check do you do on the people?
We do background check, like fully, not only criminal, but also DUI and all that, because they can take you, run errands and all that. And we also rely on ACA, which is the agency that helps with all the regulations and everything for home care. And we also vet by calling professional references to see how they were with other families or other agencies, and to personals too, because you don't know, sometimes
Sure, you never
personals, you never know. So we do a very thorough vetting on the caregivers we recruit and we match with our families. Like, we're very, very careful with that.
So if somebody on the island wants or needs something like this that you offer, how do they find you?
They can find me. Our company is Hallmark Home Care, North Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Not only if they need the service, I can be a resource for anybody trying to navigate this.
Well, that's what we try to do on the island. We want to be able to get them to reach you, and you help them. And
I want to be a resource not only for home care. Sometimes they don't even know how to navigate the system.
Most
when they
people don't
feel
know.
they don't know. They don't know how to navigate Medicare, Medicaid. They don't know how to activate all those policies they have. So I want to become someone that they can reach out and I can help, even if they don't use my company. I want to help the community because I'm part of the community. I'm trying to give back.
Well, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
A neighbor. Very nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you for this and for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Cecilia. And we are now going to interview someone who travels the country trying to teach people about this crazy economy we live in today. Bitcoin, stock market, options, et cetera, but more importantly, I think today, more than ever, it's the old expression, if the United States sneezes, the world catches a cold. Economy today is so worldly. There's no longer an isolation issue between the economy of this country and other countries. And just before I introduce you, a very brief story, I used to deal with a company in London called London & Capital. And I would go there twice a year to meet with their economist. And they were made up of about 15 people that would come to the meeting in the room, and each one represented a different section of the world. Middle East, could be Asia, could be South America, could be emerging markets, etc. And they were so far ahead in their thinking, because what they would do is they would all talk about the various areas of the world and how they affect the economy of other countries. And when you're doing an investment strategy, you may buy IBM, but you may not realize that if China goes bad, their supplies stop, or if Hong Kong goes bad, or whatever. So today we're going to meet someone who travels all around the world, lecturing only. His name is Elliot Eisenberg, and he is an economist that's going to explain to us a little bit about what we're living in right now in the world. So Elliot, tell us a little bit first about how you came into being an economist and what it took to get to that level.
Okay, so there's a apocryphal story of me being 10 years old, running into my parents' bedroom
Okay.
And we were living in Montreal at the time. And I said, we had to move. And they said, where? I said, we had to move to Vancouver, Washington.
Huh.
Because in Vancouver, Washington, there's no income tax. And we could cross the Columbia River Bridge to Portland and buy food and stuff and car or whatever and pay no sales tax. So I've been obsessed with taxes my whole life. I really don't care how the government spends the money, but I'm utterly fascinated with how government raises money, how they collect, how they get revenue taxes, what kind of taxes, tariffs, income taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, wealth taxes, whatever it is. And this led to me getting a bachelor's degree in economics, then a master's, then a PhD, and accidentally I became a public speaker, and that's right now and have been doing for 20 years.
Interesting. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about something you just touched on. Obviously, tariffs are so big in the world of today that we live in. And there's such a misnomer about who pays the burden of a tariff.
Right.
And we're told first the country that's having it imposed on them pays it. My belief, my understanding from the little economy I do get involved with, we the consumer will pay the price for the tariff from what I understand. Look, if a car is all of a sudden hit with a $10,000 per unit tariff, they're going to raise the car price $10,000. And then me, Mr. Joe Consumer, is going to pay it. Not the country that is selling it to us or the company that's selling it to us. Am I correct in this?
I would say you generally are correct. There are some potentially alternative scenarios which we'll get into. So the first thing is, historically speaking, when countries impose tariffs, the expectation is that their currency will appreciate because they'll be importing a little bit less. There'll be less supply of that currency on the currency market.
So let me understand something you just said. They will appreciate the currency selling less.
They'll by importing less.
Importing less.
By importing less, we're going to be exporting fewer dollars into the global currency markets. And that, under normal conditions, would jack up your currency. So that would mitigate, to some extent, the increase in cost of the car in US dollars. But for other reasons, the US dollar has been on a massive depreciating crash since the start of the year. It's fallen about 10%.
Correct.
Which has exacerbated the likely costs to US consumers. So, but there's another way there also can be mitigated, and that is firms' profit margins can go down. Now, if firm profit margins fall, we as shareholders start to lose money, not as buyers of cars, but as owners of stock of Ford or whatever, Tesla, whatever company it is. So we'll suffer in a different way. It's also possible that big retailers could conceivably strong arm, their suppliers in China or Vietnam or whatever is Mexico and say, eat some. That's hard to imagine. Manufactured goods,
but
at low
generally
margin.
speaking, I know the government said to these companies, do not raise your prices because of tariffs. And this is not a political conversation.
Right.
That's irrelevant. The bottom line to life is, though, generally speaking, if there's a 20% tariff put onto steel going into the automakers, there's going to be an increase to the buyer of some sort. No company can absorb 20%.
And you can't take lower profit margins forever either.
There's not
Temporarily, you can do it, but in the short run, yeah, in the long run, no.
Okay, so if we take the premise that the tariff increases prices for the moment, whether it's eggs or steel or cars, doesn't that translate, and I'm getting to the scenario, doesn't that translate in some manner to inflation?
Yes, but.
Okay.
The yes is unequivocally, sure. Price
go up.
Has gone from $1 to $1.10 on a 10% tariff.
Okay.
But it then stays at $1.10 indefinitely on a tariff issue. President Trump, Congress, whoever, they're not going to keep raising tariffs every year. So there's the expectation that the Fed has is that the tariffs will raise the cost of goods, services, whatever, 10% or 12% or whatever we think, no one knows. But, and then after a year, it goes away because it's a one-time bump up in the price of whatever it is. It's not sustained. So year over year for 12 months, there'll be that 10% inflation because it was $1 a year ago and now it's $1.10. But starting a year from now, it's $1.10 to $1.10, and therefore there's no added increase to inflation because of tariffs. So it's a
one-time inflation.
And then gone.
It's a momentary world of inflation.
Correct. Ideally. Now, if the Fed behaves badly and lets inflation go up, and when wages start to go up because inflation goes up, then you can get on the treadmill like we had back in the 70s, conceivably with oil.
All right, so the price goes up, inflation for that year goes up. Right now we're sitting at interest rates 5, 4, 5, whatever the number is, and they say there may be 2 cuts, 50 basis points by the end of the year.
Sounds reasonable.
That's what I think they talk about, which to me is almost a drop in the bucket in the scheme of a 10% increase in inflation for the 1 year.
Oh, not 10% increase in inflation. A 10% increase in the cost of goods.
Cost of goods. I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. Which will translate to some inflation for the moment.
About 1. It should bump up inflation by about 1%, back of the envelope 1%, because imports of goods are about 10% of the U.S. economy, and 10% times a 10% tariff gets you 1%.
Okay, so, and it's a great point. So it's a one-time increase,
Right.
and that's why the feds aren't that concerned with it,
Bingo. You got
because it's a one-time.
their aim is to look through this and look at the non-tariffed inflation rate, if you will.
So now, the other side of this is for the period of time where these prices go up, people will slow down their spending, obviously.
So that's cash.
And then we go into an expression called gross national product,
Oh, okay.
which is going to slow down, if I'm not mistaken.
It surely will.
Okay.
Sure.
So tell me how that fits into this puzzle.
Okay, so last year, GDP growth, 2024 calendar year, about 2.5%.
Correct. Okay.
Right now, we're looking at about 1.5.
Yeah.
So this year, it's come down considerably. And now we're going to begin to feel the impact of this increase in prices because of the tariff.
Right.
And that 1% increase in inflation is an increase in the cost, is reducing consumer spending ability.
Yes.
Real consumer spending is going to decline. So GDP falls a little more. We might end up this year with 1%, 0.75%. We can argue oil prices, the currency. There's lots of things going on. But this is going to be a relatively weak year compared to last year. There's no question.
So, and if you take that then, and you don't mind me going through this scenario.
No, this is, yeah, of course. I think about this all the time. Yeah.
I'm enjoying asking you the questions. The question then is, okay, now you go to the real world of the stock market. And as we all know, if Amazon misses by 0.1%, the stock goes down 20%.
Especially now.
There's no connection.
Right. Especially now with the market price to perfection.
That's what I'm saying.
PE ratios are
That's exactly.
22, 23. And
So obviously, it's very difficult, the way I see it, to have these companies meet some of these expectations with gross national product dropping, prices going up, consumer spending dropping. There's no way these companies, maybe a NVIDIA chip maker, maybe for example, but the basic companies, manufacturing companies or whatever, they can't meet some of the crazy expectations. And like you said, expectations are up to a detail. There's no room for imperfection.
Right.
What happens to these?
So yeah.
What happens to this market when these earnings start to come out?
And if I knew the answer to that question, I wouldn't be working for a living, right? But as my expectation is that the stock market, it's going to be hard. It just broke a record yesterday,
Exactly.
right? It's really high. It's hard to see it having a lot of energy. But that said, there is some potential energy out there, and that's Powell lowering rates. Powell cuts Fed funds rate 1/4 point twice before the year's out, 2 or 3 more times next year. That's the expectation. If he really cuts it by 1.25 points over the next 12 calendar months, ballpark, that would give some pleasant lift.
Yes.
And we go from restrictive monetary policy to probably neutral, not expansionary, but neutral. So it wouldn't help, wouldn't hurt. But now it's hurting. So that would be the juice. And the hope is the tariffs maybe aren't as bad as we think, because President Trump has been weakening, trying to get them. The market's not happy with the tariff ideas back in Memorial Independence Day on April 2nd. So we see President Trump trying to work it out in some way that ameliorates, that makes everybody happy enough. If we end up with 10, 11% tariffs, we live with it. Lower interest rates will help. Hopefully the labor market stays strong, which it has been doing of late in spite of the fact of all these headwinds that have been facing the economy. Maybe we slip by here. We might hit a recession. I'd say the odds are 35, 40%. They've certainly gone up, and they were higher a few months ago. They've come down.
Now, what do you think would be, if the odds are higher now, what do you think is causing the odds to be higher? Which aspect of what we've talked about is causing that potential?
It's the tariffs
Okay.
on top of the attendant uncertainty surrounding the tariff. So you're a firm and you make something, you don't know where to build or where to build it. You build it in the States because the tariffs are going to be long-term, 10, 15, 20% on that item, steel or aluminum. Oh, if they're that high, 50% on aluminum and steel, I'll build a smelter. It may take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to build a smelter, but I'll do it. But if I think that they're going to be reduced next week, next month, or certainly the end of President Trump's term, I'll hold off. So we hear a lot about firms saying, we're going to invest here. They've heard 100 billion here and $1 billion there and 5 billion there and this and that. But we don't hear about all the firms that are putting their construction activity on hold. Data came out this morning in construction, and overall construction activity has been declining in dollar terms since August or September of it's been a while now. We've had a consistent decline in construction activity.
Well, but I'm hearing, as an example, I just use Apple as an example. They feel that if they were to now go from India or China to the United States, they can't. It would take them 3 to 5 years before technology in this country could catch up to manufacture the phones in this country.
Supply chain.
So no question that his decision would obviously be wait and see.
Right.
Because he can't start the process now because, first of all, when he finishes it, there'll be a new administration.
Right.
And so who knows what that'll do.
Unemployment is also low. It's 4.2 now. If there really was a huge onslaught of onshoring of jobs, it would be somewhat hard at the moment to fill them. And that would drive up wages. And if wages start to go up, the Fed may say, that's going to cause some inflation. Maybe we'll keep rates higher. And this all takes time to play itself out. Nothing happens instantaneously.
Months now.
Right. But the general consensus, firms are going to go,
Let's wait.
think of you as a consumer. If you're in the mood, if you need a car, let's say in 3 months you need a car. So now we're not talking now June, we're talking October or something.
Right.
And the tariffs have been imposed. The tariffs now have caused the car to rise 5, 10%, whatever it is. You might go, I can hold off for another year and see what happens to the tariffs. So just as consumers are going to probably want to save a little more money and spend a little less, firms are going to be thinking the same way in their manufacturing and construction activity and hiring and so on. So this is probably going to have some negative impact. It may not be all that big.
And I think the fact that the housing market has dropped so drastically, it says people are not making decisions right now.
Right. That's exactly right. You see non-res construction weakening, you see res construction weakening. If we see auto sales weaken, that would really be the magical trifecta of the most interest-sensitive sectors of the economy weakening, and that often or almost always has preceded a recession.
And that
doesn't mean it will this time.
I think what's happening is, I think the economy slowing down is a byproduct of indecision of people, because I don't think people understand what's going on.
They don't.
There's so many moving parts.
But they hear, but they read in the paper, tariffs raise prices, tariffs will cause inflation.
But depending on what news station you listen to, one will tell you tariffs don't affect you, and the other will tell you it will. So people, depending on what they are watching, are getting two different stories.
True.
And I think that adds to this confusion.
I agree with you. It's unfortunate. It'd be nice if news could be somewhat objective.
Yeah, it'll never work.
You can go somewhere else and get left or right or whatever.
But the bottom line is you can't dispute the fact that housing is slowing down, prices are going up, there's going to be tariffs of some sort. And it has to have, in the next 12, 18 months, 2 years, an effect.
Negative effect.
No question.
On consumers, on manufacturers.
I don't know if it's recession, but it's going to be a negative effect. And I don't think the markets, I think they're very high because I think markets today are emotional, not realistic.
Right, and you see this when, for example, the president comes out and says, we've made a deal with England or something, and the market has a good day.
Yeah.
Or now they said, we have the outline of a deal, or now a stronger deal with China on rare earths, and we'll export stuff to them, and the market's happy. It's a headline-driven market.
That's right.
And
it's an emotional market.
Not a fundamentals-driven market or technicals-driven market, which makes me a little more nervous.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't know from day to day what's going to end. Social media is the worst nightmare of this.
Unfortunately, you're bang on that too. Yes, I agree.
So as an economist, what do you tell somebody who's 65, has a certain amount of money in the bank. What does he do with it? What does the future hold for him?
Okay, well, it depends how much money you have in the bank.
Say he's got a couple $1 million.
$5 million, $7 million, you could probably buy treasuries and squeak by and
Today, yes.
and take almost no risk. But at 65, your life expectancy keeps doing pretty well. You are, I'm sure you're like 55. You're a young guy.
57, but it's okay.
But you're non-smoking, well-educated, good health care, and so on. Your life expectancy, you got 30 more years, 35 more years to go if all goes well. Buying only treasuries in the very long run, you run some risk.
Oh,
So you still have to have exposure to the stock market. You're inevitably stuck with that. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not certified, so I can't tell you what you should do. But I can tell you what I would do if I were you in your situation, roughly. And I would say, yeah, I still have 40% of my money in the stock market. But you still have to have some solid exposure to the stock market, because in the long run, the stock market continues to can have 5 or 10 year dumper periods.
No question.
And 10 years is a long time when you're 65 or 70, but nonetheless, not having any exposure, inflation is going to erode the value of the bonds. So you want to have some mixture, but as you get older, more bonds, more conservative, dividend-paying stocks, another alternative. It's more risky than less risky than regular stock, but a little more risky than bonds. High dividend
Something that's going to pay more than the potential inflation for the moment, and that's safe.
That's the key. How much above inflation are you expected to get? That should really be driving, along with some risk. How risk can you sleep with? You go to bed at night and not fret. If you're fretting too much and not having bad sleep, then you're obviously not allocating your resources well.
So, as an economist, obviously your job, when I say job, your ability to lecture on subjects 15 years ago had to be a hell of a lot easier than it is today.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is I'll tell you a bad story of my forecast.
Please.
This was right before President Trump won back in November of 16. We had just had 8 years of Obama, and the expectation was that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election. That was the general consensus. And I remember vividly thinking to myself, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be 4 more years kind of Obama. Little did I know I was going to get on a wild bucking bronco with 4 years of Trump, which was 3 years of Trump, followed by several years of COVID, followed by several years of Biden doing all kinds of interesting and crazy things as well, and now Trump 2.0. So it's been my expectation at that moment was 100%, 180 degrees wrong.
So now you just sit back and hold on tight.
Hold on tight and look at my phone every 30 minutes, because what new thing is coming down the pipe?
Fighting when you see.
Is there a war? Is there this? Is there a new tariff? Is the budget going to pass? Is the debt ceiling going to be increased? Whatever it is, there's a lot more uncertainty than there was.
So when you go on the tour and you speak, and obviously you have a Q&A at the end of these things, what do you find most people ask you?
Oh, right now they want to know about the debt and deficit.
Interesting.
By
That's
far,
interesting. That they understand that much.
they do. They do, and they know that something's amiss. Something's not quite right there, and they worry, how bad is it? What does it mean for my children, grandchildren? Not so much for them; it's for the country as a whole and later generations. So it's a great
What's
question.
interesting about that you say that, I would have never guessed that question. But it's interesting because people don't realize we can spend, but you got to pay the money back. And they don't understand we are incurring debt. Our own country is incurring debt.
And the bigger question is, what are we getting for that debt?
Yeah.
Oh, we're borrowing money to build factories and hire workers and make new patents and new scientific exploration. That's fabulous. But if we're using it to simply live in bigger houses, for example, we're not getting productivity gains, that's not quite as good for the economy. So it's bang for the buck here. It's not just the bang, it's what are you getting in return? And now of late, I'm not convinced we're making the right choices. This is the last, I'd say 8 years, 8 years or so. Trump 1.0, Biden, and now we're continuing in this profligate.
Well, you know what's interesting? My son is going for his master's at Georgetown in finance and economics.
Okay, I can help with his homework.
I'm glad you can, because I can't. The truth is, I'm taking the class too because I do his homework with him. The question, though, that's interesting is the professors teaching the class are teaching 20 years ago of economy. They're not versed in today's world. And nor do I know how many people versed in today's world. Because teaching economy and finance today is not consistent.
Right.
You can teach something today and tomorrow it doesn't mean a thing.
But the key would be, if I were teaching that class now, I'd be taking the Wall Street Journal's business, the second section of the Wall Street Journal, and going through to some
what I'm
extent,
saying.
taking one article every day
That's
and discussing it,
Exactly.
and teaching them how to think about problems. That's the key. What problems we're facing now? Debt, deficit, tariffs. These are all issues that are of current concern. If we can help these kids understand these concepts, they'll be okay, because there'll be new concepts, new problems, but they'll know how to think. But it's not just what's
Have a
textbook.
lot of fun teaching than going out and speaking.
I love what I do. I don't think I've worked a day in my life. I get up every morning and I go,
So wonderful.
the data's ready. You
Yeah, that's
know,
great.
let's look.
The question is, I guess you must love the questions you get.
I do.
That's part of the best part, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's talking about China or healthcare or Bitcoin or whatever it is.
I mean, I taught a class, I lectured a class, I didn't teach, at University in New York.
Okay.
And I did it, it was a 6-week class, and they asked me to teach it. It was on entrepreneurship and finance of business.
Great.
And it was a graduate class. But I want to tell you, the thing I loved the most were the questions. And I have to tell you, they ask questions.
And sometimes you get a question and it's, the thinking is so good, but it's totally wrong. And you say, it's like, I love how you're thinking, but you're completely wrong.
Right.
But you have to give them full points for thinking about it the right way.
That's right.
And you have to encourage questions. Questioning is really critical.
But you've got a great job because you're lecturing history today.
Right.
It's
I'm first draft of history.
First draft. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to worry about what the past is because the past doesn't teach us anything.
Don't go that far. It gives us insights. It gives us some insights.
Well, it teaches you the basics, yes. But in today's world of cause and effect,
A good example was when Powell raised rates starting in early 22 through end of 23, that large increase in the rates, couple percentage points, 300 bips, I don't know, something like that. The expectation was we're going to get a recession. And the economists kept saying, yeah, likely, probably, no guarantees, but highly probability. And it didn't show up.
That's right.
Because there were other factors there that completely mitigated
well,
it.
isn't that what's happening now?
Right, maybe.
We'll see.
I'm more nervous because COVID savings is gone and so on. There are things that were cushioning us back then. Student loans weren't being repaid. Now they're being repaid and wages are being garnished, moreover. So there's less of a bumper protection.
Yeah.
But still, nothing's foregone conclusion, and policies can always change too.
Well, I could do this all day with you, but I know you have to go to work. And it's my pleasure. Thank you. And I want to thank you, Elliot, for being with us.
My pleasure.
We'd love to have you back.
Sure, we can arrange it.
Well, he's here as a gift from Richard Burton,
There you go.
our friendly resident. We call him our curmudgeon at large.
Fair enough.
But,
He's my curmudgeon friend at large. I guess.
Okay, there you go. But I'd love to have you back. Let us know when you're coming back because we could spend a whole day doing this.
Undoubtedly.
We would love
Yes.
But what we would do is have a lecture on the island and open it up to the whole island to come see you.
We could do that too.
Again, I thank you so much for being here. It's
My pleasure.
Truly our pleasure having you. Because we're not having a meeting this month on the board, we thought it was very important because there's so many things going on within the island that we want to talk about. I wanted to have Jeff Klein with us, our CEO, to bring us up to date on the status of the pool because we have had some issues. Police presence on the island. By now you've probably realized and seen them on the island. And that's kind of unfortunate we had to do it, but we had so many close calls with children, with baby carriages, with people crossing. And it's unfortunate that we've had to give out so many tickets, not we, but the Aventura Police.
Yeah.
But it has had a positive effect, and it's wonderful to see that people are now responding more.
Yeah.
But let's go to the most important topic on the island. How are we doing on our pool?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's always great being back, and certainly love going last because, speaking about Williams Island is a joy, specifically when you're talking about the issues with Israel and Iran,
Yeah.
the conversation of long-term health care, and then you were talking tariffs and taxes and all these things that to the world are so crazy, but in our utopia, they're secondary in many cases. And what's most important is the life at Williams Island, which is so special
question.
and so beautiful. And you touched on one thing before I go into the pool, which is the police presence. And I just thought
Please.
it's probably the most serious of the topics that we're going to talk about today. So based on the feedback from many residents and obviously the board's awareness around the island, we've seen a lot of people, blowing through stop signs, speeding down the island, and we wanted to take action. So, with your relationships with the city, we were able to partner with Aventura, and we've had several days already of police presence. And to be clear, this is not Williams Island trying to make money, because we don't make one penny.
Nothing.
This is educating our residents about stop signs and crosswalks and speeding. And over the 3 days, we've had over 25 citations written for people who are blatant. Not,
And I bet how many warnings?
not
About 100
rollers, but blatant disregard for a stop sign.
Right.
And we've had over 60 warnings of, hey, you didn't come to a complete stop. You have to be more mindful. So it's sort of an education along with citation. And this will continue
Yes.
for a long period of time with our goal not to write hundreds and hundreds of tickets, but more the opposite.
Yeah.
To really control the traffic and safety on the island, because with the boom of children and the boom of strollers and the boom of kids on bikes and the residents' enjoyment, we want to make sure it's safe. And that's really why we implemented this strategy
Right.
with the support of the board, and it's going really well. So to all the Williams Island residents, safety is paramount. You may not see them, but the Aventura police are watching. So please follow the rules, follow the regulations, stop at the stop signs, don't go through the crosswalks, and just make sure that we're really focused on safety.
And segue from that, because that has also prompted us. We've been dealing with a camera company and an IT, and actually IA company,
That's right.
AI. And the purpose is because we have over 150 cameras throughout the island for many reasons that we're going to try to consolidate into
Yeah.
safety issues.
Right.
Explain a little about what that's
Sure.
going to be.
So we're interviewing 3 companies, and all these companies are giving us demo cameras to work with to see what cameras and what access software works best for Williams Island. AI is moving so fast. So the minute you fall in love with something, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Right? So we're working with 3 different companies to try to take our existing infrastructure and bring it into the world of AI, where we don't have to go invest in all new AI cameras. Some areas we'll have to invest because we need super high def to read a license plate or to catch a speed. But we're really trying to increase the artificial intelligence on the island to help us with gate access, facial recognition, who belongs in certain areas, who doesn't belong in certain areas. As an example, we're investing all of this money in all of the amenities: pool, kids park, sports park, dog park. We want to make sure that those assets are solely and wholly for resident and member use. So by putting an access camera on those gates that recognizes your face or gives you access via technology on your phone, we know that only our residents and members can utilize the asset. So we're working with 3 companies. It's not going to be fast. It's going to be a tremendous amount of diligence. And in our capital plan for the next 5 years, we have $1 million in that plan over 5 years for this sole reason, to make sure that we get with the times of artificial intelligence, and then we're sustainable
Yeah.
moving forward, because it all goes to security and it goes to asset protection. And I think they're 2 really important areas of Williams Island.
And we committed ourselves to doing
That's
this.
correct.
We've been talking about doing this, but you have to be up with the times.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we have had people that don't live here get on the island, do certain things. But be that as it may, I think this will
Absolutely.
this is going to solve the problem.
Absolutely. So now back to your original.
Well,
See, I was trying to avoid the pool, but I got no choice.
but it's good news, I
I'm
hear.
looking at it. So the good news is that our last inspection went very well. That happened on Friday. And like most municipalities and departments, they take their time putting their report together, meeting with their colleagues, making sure that all of their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. Because again, pools are a safety issue, right?
Yes,
so
very
we
much.
can't sit here and be upset with the health department. We have to actually commend them for doing their job and making sure that they sign off on a pool that is going to be safe for resident and member use. So the issue with the gutter was resolved. The drawdown test passed. We do have a few items that are going on to a variance hearing on July 9th, which are minor. And in the scope of the list that I read with all of the other companies going to variance, ours are actually pretty simple. But we're shooting to get a TPO, which is the same as a TCO for pool, so a temporary pool occupancy permit this week. Will it happen? I don't know. It's a holiday week. We're pushing really hard. They're pushing hard. They have people on vacation, but they're really pushing to see if they can get us use of our pool by this week. If it doesn't happen, we're days away. We're a lot closer to the finish line, Bob, than we are at the starting line. And we recognize that it's not been convenient for the residents. We apologize profusely, but some things are just out of our control.
No, actually, they did us a favor. And I'll tell you, in the long run, and not because we wanted a 2-3 month delay, but what they did find that helped us was there were leaks underground that we had not detected. And in fairness, the contractor didn't detect it as well, because until you start using the pool, you really don't know. But in finding these leaks, so to speak, they actually saved the island tens of thousands of dollars in water loss over the period of time.
Yeah, not to mention the long-term damage that
Exactly.
potentially would ensue from
So they really did.
a hole under the
It may have inconvenienced us for a couple of months, but
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, in the long run, it's been the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
And we will open now in a very safe,
That's
secure
right. The
environment.
water's holding, the chemicals are perfect, the pool looks fantastic. Next to the pool, we have the Last Coconut, and albeit it's not super busy because the pool's not open, those that are coming on a regular basis are really enjoying the Last Coconut. So that's been a great amenity addition to the island. And we're sitting inside Olia, which I think is
gorgeous.
probably the hottest restaurant in Aventura right now. And certainly the hottest thing going at Williams Island.
No
And
question. No.
I will tell you, unlike most restaurants, when you open a restaurant, you get 7 days, 200-300 covers of practice. And within a month, you've served thousands and thousands and thousands of meals. And your progression is really fast. We're only open 3 days and we're only doing 100 covers a day. So the amount of people we're serving is a lot less than you would in a normal restaurant. But I will tell you that in 1 month of being open with only 3 days of business, I would put this restaurant up against any operating restaurant in the market.
No question.
And the feedback from our residents has been great. The food quality is fantastic. The
I've been
staff
here
and
3-4 times already, and I will tell you, if you haven't been here, you must try it. It's not just about the food, though. It's the atmosphere. It's a club experience.
Absolutely.
You're with your neighbors. You get to talk in an elegant surrounding.
Absolutely.
And it's like quiet elegance, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But the food and the service is above anything I've seen in this city in a long time.
And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, well, why only 100 covers? Well, it's really because we want to ensure that on any given night, we provide an excellent experience to all the residents. And as we become more comfortable and it gets cooler and we open outside and we let the flow of the bar take a natural life of its own, we'll probably do 200 covers and 250 covers. But we need to practice every day. And the commitment the staff has made to me is they ensured me that they would get 1% better every day. And I know it sounds de minimis, but 1% better every day in 90 days, they're going to be working at the peak of their performance and then sustaining that, which is really critical for the long-term success of this venue and the island's amenity. So super excited about Olia. Thaddeus and Gabe and Miles and Vanessa, that team has worked tirelessly.
And I will tell you something. They are here day and night. But it's not just it's not a job to them.
No.
They can't, if you come here, you have to see it. You can't explain it.
It's a canvas.
Thaddeus is like a little kid in the candy store.
This is like-
and he runs to the table and tries this, try that, and do this and do that.
For them, it's an art, right? So this has been like a blank canvas for them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, where do
For
you
you too?
Yeah, where do you get to go and create the box, build the box, make it look pretty, write the menu? All the service touch points are yours. Everything that's going on is, and if it doesn't work, we don't have this large corporate structure that we have to run it up the totem pole and say, hey, it doesn't work, we got to change it. We have a meeting, we recap, we look at the great things that have happened, we
It's the
things that are
cadence.
not, and we're making changes on the fly
right.
for the long-term benefit of the island. So, I mean, so far, this has been a home run, and
but
it's only going to get better.
But it's caused us a big problem because now that this is so great, and not only the restaurant, the pool area, the last coconut, we're getting ready to do some great stuff and great renovation and space usage of the spa and the grill. So let's talk a little about that because that's very exciting.
I think the key to this is this project raised the bar.
Yes.
And everything we do moving forward has to be at the level, if not better, than what we've just done. So we started with the dog park and we took a very simple dog park and we made it better because it's cleaner and it's got turf. So it's open 360 days a year and the dogs are loving it. We then built a 9-cup putting green behind the 4,000 building. And thanks to residents like Miles Cutler, every Tuesday and Thursday, he has putt and chat and putt and this and 40, 50 residents are showing up, social putting and golf.
Amazing what he's doing out there.
We ordered some custom flags that are coming in that'll number it so they could play games. We're finalizing the revamp of our current playground with new turf and some new amenities. We're looking at the sports court and the Bellini Triangle for basketball and futsal. And then we're currently in what I think will be the next largest project, which is a spa fitness renovation.
Yes.
This is not going to be lipstick on a pig. This is going to be a very mindful project that took the functionality of the building highly into consideration to make sure that all of the changes we made or proposing to make are net gain of square footage for the use of what we have. And I'll give you a few examples. Pilates. Pilates is currently in a room that's 400 square feet. It's moving to a room that's 600 square feet. Although it's only 200 more square feet, it's 50%.
That's a lot.
Right? We're moving the gym, picking up almost 400 square feet. We're moving the dance studio, picking up 400 square feet. We're moving the PT, picking up 200 square feet.
Yeah.
So all of these changes, by virtue of getting rid of the most underutilized real estate in the building, which is the retail and the entrance, we're reconfiguring the upstairs. And then when we're going to get downstairs, it's going to be a state-of-the-art spa and fitness facility. So you're going to have this very, very luxurious sense of arrival. Women to the right, men to the left, great wet amenities, great lockers, great quiet areas. And then, of course, Carrie and her team do an exceptional job with services. So massages, facials, and all of the new technology we're working on to come into play for this project. So we're super
doing a
excited.
facelift in the grill.
Yeah, and then right behind that, you said you want to do the grill, and then right behind that, it'll be time for something else. But I think the key message here is that over the last 5 years, and I've been here 3+, if you could believe it, there's been tremendous investment back into this island. And we have a board that cares not only about today, but cares about the future. And you have a leadership team that doesn't care about today, but cares about the future. And that's really the direction. Like, we want to build this island to be the single greatest lifestyle community and club in South Florida. And it's something that the residents and the members deserve, and we're delivering it. And we're going to keep this place at the forefront of real estate. That only helps values. Goes back to Elliot's conversation on inflation, deflation, and all these things that are happening. But if your real estate goes up, that's always good for you too. So,
Well, and it's interesting because I know a lot of times people talk about we're going to do something, but it never gets done. We made a commitment, the board made a commitment to the island a number of years ago when we refinanced it. We redid all the financing for the island to make sure that we preserved financial capability to increase and redo the capital projects and the amenities of the island to a, as we're sitting in right now, this type of quality. Not only this, but to go ahead, do the spa, do the classes, do this, run the restaurant, make sure we have the dog park, all of these improvements. And the beauty of this is it has not been one penny of an assessment.
Right.
Because we were careful as a board to make sure financially we stayed within our budgets, but the budgets included $30 million worth of capital improvements over a 5 to 7 year period.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons you're here, because we had the vision, but we needed the team. And I have to tell you, the team we have on this island, and I don't mean the staff only, we have an amazing group of lay leadership on this
100%.
island that has together. And one of the reasons we're doing all these things now is because we have a team of people between the leadership of the staff and yourself, or the leadership of you, and the lay leadership. It's a combination you can't duplicate.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, take Thomas, right, our CFO.
Yeah.
A lot of times you talk about the things you want to do in business, but you never have the money to do it, or you don't have the right money to do it, or it's not the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Thomas has been instrumental working with you and other key board members on the finances to make sure that what we talk about actually can come to life, because we're investing our money properly, we're managing our budgets properly, and we're providing surplus that doesn't just get wasted, but it goes towards capital, which then goes towards dog parks.
Then you have a
and
guy
kids parks.
like a John Fells,
That's
who
right.
heads our construction committee.
Yeah.
Who
He builds it like it's his own.
That's exactly
like it's his
that.
own
I mean,
wallet.
So that is the reason people say, why are you doing so much? Because while you have the manpower and the team, the leadership is the key.
For sure.
You have to do it.
Surrounded by great people and a lot of board members and committee members that care.
Yes.
And we have to take advantage of it while they
question
can.
about
We
it.
should
Yes.
do, and we should build it so it's sustainable. And I think everything we're doing now is being approached long term. I mean, we have so many things that we've talked about that aren't even public yet because they're just ideas. But it's amazing when ideas become reality, and the reality is
It's exciting.
what you see at 83
God,
acres of
it's
Williams
so-
Island on a
so
daily
exciting.
basis. The only last thing I'll talk about
please,
is
sure.
in the last board meeting, we talked about the family.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
And we took immediate action. We sent out notices for applications for the family committee. We've got an overwhelming response. We have our first meeting. The committee was selected. September 30th is our first committee family meeting. We're really excited because coincidentally, we have representation almost from every building on the island.
Wonderful.
Accidentally. We didn't ask for it. It just happened. And the range is infant to 13-year-old,
And
which is really exciting.
a beautiful byproduct of this, because this all started because at our various board meetings the last few months, we've had it's had great presence of young family members talking about safety, security. One of the things that we did and we were able to accomplish that you did was we're leaving the kiddie park where it is for safety reasons.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to move it now to the triangle.
Exactly.
They came up with their cause. They really did have a legitimate excuse of why it shouldn't be moved. We looked into it, and we were able to find a way to keep it where it is, upgrade it, do what we have to do with it. So those are the benefits of having these kind of committees with you.
That's right. And Dr. Murphy will be the board liaison.
Yes.
And she's super excited. She was in the meeting where we selected the committee. So Arlene, Carrie, and I will be the management team meeting with this committee. Mostly Arlene and Carrie. Bob.
That's all right, but you're young. You're a young parent. Come on.
I'm a parent of 22 and 18. So
All right, that's still young.
Sometimes they act like they're 4 and 8. Sometimes they act like they're 18 and 22. But we're excited. There's so much great stuff happening on the island.
Isn't it amazing?
And
It's exciting. Every day is exciting.
it's a new day here every day. The team's doing a great job, and we're excited to be here. So thanks for having me on the show today.
I can't thank you enough for what you've done.
Thanks.
It must have been a hell of a 3 years for you here. It's hard to imagine.
It's gone so fast.
Wow.
I mean, I was talking to my daughter today, and she said, "Remind me when I met Gabe I said, well, you met Gabe at Turnberry 10 years ago.
Wow.
And you met Gabe 21 years ago when I worked at Fontainebleau and you were just a baby. I was like, oh my God, like time just has gone so fast.
See what a cup of coffee does?
It's amazing. No, it's my trainer that's keeping me healthy and
That's true.
keeping it
That's
going.
true.
So
Well, you stay healthy because we
Thank
need
you.
you around a long time.
thanks, Bob.
And I thank you so much. It's been a great day. You've had the rabbi talk about what's going on in the world. We had an economist. We had a woman from the island who's our neighbor. And of course, we had Jeff keep us up to date with all the wonderful things happening. Have a wonderful summer, and we'll speak to you in a few weeks. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.